idea of starting again amidst the pandemic is kind of overwhelming. Today I'm going to be talking about writer's block. And in particular, we're going to be trying to get unstuck from quarantine writer's block. I have been feeling it very hard. So I have not written anything new since December when I wrote Depart, my novella, which is coming out in September. And I haven't written anything new since then because I've been revising. So I had to do a lot of revisions on that novella, a couple rounds of it, first myself and then with my publisher. I was also simultaneously working on revisions of my YA Sand and Swarm with my agent. So I haven't drafted anything new since then. And the idea of starting again amidst the pandemic is kind of overwhelming. For those of you who are just tuning in, right before the pandemic, my sister-in-law and two of her kids moved in with us. So we're doing 6 people in a 2-bedroom house during quarantine. And there's very little privacy and it's very difficult for me to find any time to write. My husband is working 9 to 5 for NASA and he's the only one of us getting a regular paycheck. So he gets to use this office on a regular basis, and I have to just kind of find little snatches of time when I can get here and close the doors and have some time to write. But the thought of writing anything lately has just been overwhelming, and I haven't gotten started on anything new because I don't have any ideas. I feel like my brain is just empty. But here's what I found in the past when I've gotten stuck, which is you just can't sit around waiting for inspiration. You have to sometimes force it or kickstart it. And so today I'm going to do a free writing exercise on film that you can also use if you're feeling stuck, just to get some ideas flowing. The worst thing you can do, I think, when you have writer's block is to just sit there and stew forever on it, which is what I've been doing for about a month, even though I know better. So I'm not expecting to write anything really good today. I'm not expecting to write anything that's going to be turned into my next great novel. I'm just writing for the sake of writing. And I think that's where you need to start when you're feeling really dried out. So this activity comes from Lynda Barry, who is one of my favorite graphic novelists and novelists. She has a novel called Cruddy, which is incredible. Very dark YA. Kind of think it's more of an adult book about teenagers, but I'm not sure how it's categorized. She also has a number of books on craft. One of those books, which is missing because I'm always lending it out to people, is called What It Is. It's going to be here. And in that book, she has an activity called Word Bags, which gets your juices flowing, and I used to use it as an English teacher with my students. So what it is like a box of like 100 envelopes with little words written on pieces of paper. So you get a word randomly, and I again have lost my little set of word bags. I can't find them, but I wanted to get this video out. I wanted to start getting past my writer's block. So I'm gonna use a random word generator, and I'll link to the one I use. It's gonna spit out a common noun. I'm going to write the first 10 things that I associate with it fast without thinking. Then I'm going to pick the one that feels the most vivid to me, the one that sparks ideas and that I want to write about the most. Then I have to do a 7-minute free write. The key is you have to keep your pen moving the whole time. If you feel stuck and you run out of words, you have to write the alphabet. Lynda Barry is very adamant that there's a kind of magic of pen on paper. When I'm drafting a longer work, like a short story or my novel, I always do everything on the computer. But for this kind of activity, when I'm trying to get unstuck or generate ideas, also for outlining, I find I have to do paper and pen. And it really does help. So if you're feeling stuck, try writing in a new format, and that might really help you get unstuck. Okay, so y'all can do it with me today, and I'll walk you through it. Getting to a clean page in my notebook. And I'm not trying to get anything out of this. I'm not trying to write the next great story. I'm just doing the act of putting words on the page today. And I'm going to go ahead and number my paper 1 through 10. And again, this is like a great activity that I used to do with my students. Okay, I'm going to generate my word. Oh, she says to do some deep breathing to calm yourself down before you start. My word is payment. Wow. Okay, first 10 words. Okay, so I've generated a list of 10 payments that occurred to me. The one that surprised me and instantly jumped out at me, and I don't know what it's about, is number 2, violin. I thought about the time I almost pawned my violin, which was right before I started playing it obsessively again and joined an orchestra again. That popped into my head, and that's immediately like a time in my life and some images that are really speaking to me. So I'm gonna go with that. So I'm gonna set my timer now and do a 7-minute free write. Okay, so the exercise is over. I did it. I listed 10 payments that came to mind. The one that I chose to write about is a payment I never received from the time I actually surrendered my violin that I'd had like all through high school and had loved and played in a band on, and I surrendered it to a pawn shop in a fit of like KonMariing my house. And it sat there for either 6 months or a year, I can't remember. And I never got the payment though, it didn't sell. So they gave me a call after 6 months or a year, did I want it back? And as soon as they gave me that call, I had this like overwhelming emotion. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, what have I done? Like any amount, you know, chump change they would give me for this violin isn't worth like giving up what it means to me and what its potential is. And that day I went and picked up my violin and signed up for music lessons, and then started playing again regularly and practicing, and got into orchestra, and I made one of my best friends in the world, Sajani, in orchestra, and I've had the most amazing time playing in beautiful concerts in orchestra. It's just like been such a wonderful part of my life until the pandemic, of course. So yeah, I've never thought of writing a story about that. I am actually thinking of writing a short story, speculative fiction set in the near future about kind of like the last violin maker. And I'm also really interested in the idea of nigun, which is spiritual, which I need to do a lot more research on, but it's like spiritual Jewish music, and the idea that music is transcendental is like part of the Jewish tradition, and that music can help you like overcome your earthly form, which I think is something every musician feels like they understand. I didn't put anything on the page today that's gonna ever get published, but I did do a little bit of writing and got in touch with like a moment in my life that hasn't really stood out in my memories, but was actually like a really powerful experience. And the thing that I think is most interesting in what I wrote was like, I started wondering, I didn't even need the money is the thing. I just wanted that violin out of my life for everything it had come to represent, for the way it collected dust grudgingly in a corner, a horcrux of my failures. I was so angry at the object itself for not yielding to me after so many hundreds of hours of practice, for being capable of such beauty that I had never been and never would be able to elicit. And I think that at the moment when I got rid of the violin, it just represented failure to me. You know, I had loved being in an orchestra in high school, but then I got tendinitis and I just wasn't good enough. And I started getting really bad stage fright and failing at auditions and things. And it just, that path to being a classical or any kind of professional musician is just so competitive. And I didn't have what it took, you know? And unfortunately, the way like music education is set up in this country, a lot of kids, when they're in that situation, they just get the message like, okay, well, there's no point in playing now. And then I kept writing, and I was like, well, why did, what was I thinking when I went to go pick it up from the pawn shop? I was actually, it was an instrument pawn shop. It wasn't like the gold and jewels pawn shop. It was an instrument consignment store. When I went to pick it up, I was pregnant, and I think that was kind of what had renewed my hope for the future and like plans for the future. I'm not too old to learn and get better at my instrument. I'm not too old to like enjoy music and have it be a part of my life forever. I think when I got pregnant, that like sort of renewed my hopes for the future and stuff. It's been really hard on me since the pandemic started, not being able to play an orchestra. It's like a huge creative self-care outlet for me. So this is good. I think this is a little bit of therapy. I don't know if anything here is going to ever take the form of something publishable, but this is how we dig ourselves out of writer's block, day by day, trying different things, putting words on the page, the act of doing it, and eventually the juices start flowing, and we get the idea that won't let us go, that turns into our next story or book, right? So if you're on this journey with me, and if you're trying to break out of quarantine writer's block, go ahead and try this 10 items random word generated writing prompt. And if you do try it, let me know what came up for you and what you wrote about and if it worked for you. So I'm maybe going to try a few more videos like this. If you'd like to see more ideas for overcoming writer's block and doing write along with me's, let me know in the comments. And as always, please subscribe and help me grow my channel. Thanks. See you next time.